By the time the goldfinch begins to build its nest, almost every other bird in your yard has already finished. The robin raised its first brood in April. The blackbird's second clutch has fledged. The blue tits' young have been flying for weeks. The house sparrow has already run 2 full cycles of eggs, incubation, and fledglings, and may be starting a third. And the goldfinch? In late June, in July, sometimes into August, it is only just beginning. It is the latest nester of almost any bird you are likely to see in your garden. Not by a few days, by months. Most people assume this is an accident of the species, a quirk. The goldfinch being a goldfinch, showing up fashionably late, doing things its own way, as carelessly brilliant as it looks. It is not an accident. It is one of the most precisely timed behavioral strategies in the bird world. And the reason behind it will change the way you see this bird entirely. The goldfinch is not late, it is exactly on time. Reason 1. It is waiting for a food source that does not exist yet. Almost every songbird in your yard feeds its young the same thing: insects, caterpillars, aphids, fly larvae. Soft, protein-dense, easy to digest. The breeding calendar of most garden birds is synchronized to the peak availability of invertebrates in spring, and that synchronization is so precise that a shift of even 2 weeks in either direction measurably reduces chick survival rates. The goldfinch does not follow this calendar because the goldfinch does not feed its young insects. It feeds them seeds. Specifically, and this is the extraordinary part, it feeds them seeds that have been partially digested in the adult bird's crop and regurgitated directly into the chick's mouth, a slurry of processed seed, rich enough to sustain growth, soft enough for a newly hatched bird to handle. No other common garden bird does this. The goldfinch has opted out of the insect protein system entirely and built its entire reproductive strategy around a different food source with a completely different seasonal window. And that window opens in summer, not spring. Reason 2. It is following the thistle. The goldfinch's primary food, for itself and for its young, is the seed of composite flowers: thistles, teasels, dandelions, knapweeds. The plants that most gardeners consider weeds, and that most gardens spend considerable effort removing. These plants do not produce seeds in April. They produce seeds in July, in August. The thistle that stands at the back of an overgrown field does not open its seed head until midsummer, and the goldfinch's entire breeding calendar is built around the moment it does. This is not coincidence. It is co-evolution, a relationship between a bird and a plant family so old and so precise that the goldfinch's breeding biology has literally been shaped by the reproductive schedule of the thistle. The bird and the plant have been timing each other for thousands of years. When the thistle seeds, the goldfinch nests. When the goldfinch nests, the thistle seeds. The synchronization is not approximate. It is exact. And this is why the goldfinch, the most visually striking bird in most British and European gardens, is so rarely seen nesting when every other bird is nesting. It is on a different calendar entirely, a thistle calendar, a July calendar, its own. Reason 3. It built one of the most extraordinary nests in the bird world, and it takes time to do it right. The goldfinch nest is not a rushed construction. It cannot be. It is a deep, cup-shaped structure, typically placed near the end of a thin outer branch, a location chosen specifically because it sways in wind, making it difficult for predators to approach without the movement alerting the sitting bird. The placement itself is engineered. The cup is lined with plant down. The soft white fibers from thistle seeds, from willow herb, from any composite plant that produces the fine material the goldfinch requires. The female collects this material over several days, weaving it into a structure so tight and so fine that researchers describe it as felt-like. It is the work of a craftsman, not a generalist, and it is almost entirely the female's work. She builds. He guards the territory, feeds her during the construction period, and brings occasional materials. But the nest is her architecture, shaped to her specifications, tested by her as she works. The nest she builds will hold eggs in temperatures that swing from summer warmth to unexpected cold nights. It will flex under the weight of chicks that grow rapidly over 14 days. It will be used for a second brood if conditions allow, rebuilt and repaired rather than abandoned. The goldfinch does not build late because it is slow. It builds late because what it is building requires the conditions, the materials, and the food supply that only July provides. Reason 4. The late timing protects the chicks from the most dangerous predators. This is the part that most people never consider. Nest predation peaks in spring. The same months when most garden birds are raising their young, April, May, June, are the months when predator pressure on garden nests is at its highest. Corvids are actively searching for eggs and chicks. Sparrowhawks are feeding their own young and hunting at maximum intensity. Domestic cats are at their most active. Predators learn the breeding season of their prey. They time their search behavior to the peak availability of eggs and chicks, and the peak is spring. By nesting in late June and July, the goldfinch is operating in a window when the most intense predation pressure has already passed. The corvid's own young are fledging and becoming independent. The sparrowhawk's breeding demands have eased. The frantic search behavior of peak spring is giving way to the slower rhythms of summer. A goldfinch nest in July occupies a different risk landscape than a robin nest in April. The food is ready. The predators are less focused. The thistle is seeding. Everything converges at once, and only at this moment. The goldfinch has been waiting for it with extraordinary patience. Not because it is lazy, because it is precise. And the consequence of all this precision is something most people in Britain and Northern Europe are walking past right now without noticing. Somewhere near you, in an overgrown hedge on the end of a thin birch branch in the thick outer canopy of an apple tree, there is a goldfinch nest that is currently active. The female is sitting on eggs, or the chicks have just hatched and the male is delivering seeds, or the fledglings are in the nearby branches, still calling, still dependent, dazzlingly bright, even before they have their full adult plumage. This is happening right now, in July. In the exact window the goldfinch has waited all spring to reach, every gardener who pulled up the thistles in May cut off part of the food supply this nest will need in the next 3 weeks. Every hedge that was trimmed in June may have displaced a nest that was being built or already contained eggs. The goldfinch's late calendar is not just a biological curiosity. It puts its reproduction directly in conflict with the moment most gardens are being most aggressively maintained. It is nesting right now, while everyone is outside, while the lawn mowers are running, while the hedge trimmers are out. This is the cost of being precisely on time in a world that runs on a different schedule. The goldfinch did not arrive late to the breeding season. It arrived exactly when the thistle was ready, when the predators were quieter, when the food source it has spent thousands of years co-evolving with finally opened. It is the most precisely timed nester in your garden, and it is the one most likely to be missed. Because by the time people start paying attention to garden birds in April and May, the goldfinch is still waiting. It knows something the robin doesn't. July is worth waiting for. Tell me in the comments, have you ever found a goldfinch nest? And if you have thistles or teasels in your garden, let me know. I read every one.